There is a Ferris wheel in Ukraine that has never carried a single passenger. It was built for a city of 50,000 people. It was supposed to open on the 1st of May, 1986, a bright new attraction for the families who lived there. It never turned. 5 days before it was meant to open, everyone in that city vanished, in a single afternoon. Today, that Ferris wheel still stands, rusting and silent, at the center of one of the strangest places on Earth. A whole city, apartments, schools, a swimming pool, a hospital perfectly built and completely empty, frozen at the exact moment its people fled and never came back. The city is called Pripyat, and the reason nobody can live there, the reason nobody can safely stand at the base of that Ferris wheel even now, is invisible. It has no sound, no smell, no color, and it will remain deadly here for thousands of years. This is the story of the most famous forbidden zone on the planet, how a city died in a day, and what crept back in once the people were gone. Before we go further, if you're fascinated by places like this, subscribe. We explore a new one every week. To understand the empty city, you have to go back to the night everything changed. It was just after 1 in the morning, on the 26th of April, 1986. At the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, in what was then the Soviet Union, engineers were running a safety test on reactor number 4. The test went wrong. In a matter of seconds, the reactor spiraled out of control. Power surged to catastrophic levels. And then, 2 explosions tore the reactor apart, blowing the massive steel-end concrete lid clean off the top and ripping open the building. Burning chunks of radioactive material were flung into the night sky. The roof of the reactor was on fire, but this was no ordinary fire. What was pouring out of that shattered core was radiation, and in the first hours, up to 30% of the reactor's uranium was thrown into the open air. The first people to respond were firefighters. They arrived believing they were fighting a normal blaze on a roof. They had no idea that the black rubble they were standing near was so radioactive that being close to it was a death sentence. Some of them described a strange metallic taste in their mouths. A few would be dead within weeks. And just 2 miles away, the 50,000 people of Pripyat were asleep in their beds, with no idea that the air above their city had just turned into one of the most dangerous substances on Earth. They would not be told the truth for a very long time. Here is the part that is hard to forgive. The Soviet authorities knew within hours that something catastrophic had happened, but their first instinct was not to warn people, it was to keep it quiet. So on the morning of the 26th, the people of Pripyat woke up and went about their lives. Children went to school. People hung out their laundry. Some, hearing there had been an accident at the plant, walked out onto a railway bridge to get a better look at the strange glowing fire in the distance. That bridge would later earn a grim nickname, the Bridge of Death, for the dose of radiation those onlookers are said to have received. For a day and a half, the city carried on, bathed in invisible poison. It was not until the afternoon of the 27th, around 36 hours after the explosion, that the evacuation finally began. And when it came, it was sudden. Residents were told to pack a small bag, take only what they needed for a few days, and leave their pets behind. They were promised they would be back soon. More than 1,000 buses rolled into the city. In a matter of hours, nearly 50,000 people were loaded up and driven away. They were never allowed to return. And so Pripyat became a time capsule. Walk through it today and you find the ordinary life of 1986 frozen mid-motion. Children's toys still sitting on nursery floors. School books open on the desks where they were left. Family photographs fading on windowsills. The people took almost nothing because they truly believed they would be home in a few days. Everything they owned is still there, slowly being swallowed by dust and moss and time. Over the following weeks, the evacuation spread outward. More than 100,000 people were cleared from a 30-kilometer radius. In the end, the Soviet Union would remove around 335,000 people from their homes and draw a line around the land itself, a line that still exists today. They called it the Exclusion Zone, and at its heart lay a monster that could not be moved. Deep beneath the ruined Reactor number 4, the disaster left something behind, something that should not exist. When the core melted down, the nuclear fuel fused with the concrete, sand, and steel around it into a glowing, molten mass, and then it hardened. Workers who discovered it gave it a name based on its shape, the elephant's foot. It is one of the most dangerous objects ever created by human beings. In the years after the accident, the radiation coming off the elephant's foot was so intense that standing next to it for just 5 minutes would deliver a fatal dose. Not sickness, death. To even photograph it, workers had to use mirrors to look around corners and rig cameras on wheels, because getting close enough for a clear shot could kill you. And someone had to deal with all of this. In the months after the explosion, the Soviet Union sent hundreds of thousands of people, soldiers, miners, ordinary workers, into the disaster to contain it. They became known as the liquidators. On the single most dangerous task of all, clearing radioactive debris off the reactor roof, they first tried machines. The robots simply died. The radiation destroyed their electronics in minutes, so they sent men instead. Each one ran out onto the roof, worked for as little as 40 seconds, and ran back. It took thousands of them, one desperate dash at a time, to clear that roof by hand. And that is the true horror of this place. The danger here is completely invisible. You cannot see the radiation. You cannot smell it or feel it. A meadow in the zone can look like the most peaceful place on Earth, green, quiet, full of wildflowers, while silently delivering a dose that will kill you months or years later. This is why the zone remains sealed. Parts of it will not be safe for human life for thousands of years. To lock the worst of it away, engineers spent years building a colossal steel dome, the new safe confinement, over 100 meters tall, and in 2016, slid it over the reactor to hold the radiation back for the next century. The humans did everything they could to seal this place off from life, and that is what makes what happened next so astonishing. If this is gripping you as much as it gripped us, do us one small favor: tap the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people. Because when the people left the zone, something else moved in. For decades, we assumed the exclusion zone would be a dead land, a radioactive wasteland where nothing could survive. We were wrong. With almost no humans left for nearly 40 years, the zone, more than 2,500 square kilometers of abandoned towns, farms, and forest, has quietly become one of the most surprising wildlife sanctuaries in Europe. The animals came back, and not just a few. Today, the zone is home to thriving populations of wolves, lynx, elk, wild boar, and foxes. Brown bears, gone from the region for over a century, have returned. So have European bison. Scientists studying the area have found something almost impossible to believe. In parts of the zone, biodiversity is now higher than in nearby nature reserves that were never touched by disaster. The wolves alone are more than 7 times as abundant here as in protected parks outside the fence. There are even wild horses. In 1998, a group of endangered Pripyat horses, one of the last truly wild horse species on Earth, were released into the zone as an experiment. They didn't just survive, they multiplied. Today, more than 150 of them roam the ruins of a civilization that abandoned the land to them. Let that sink in. The most radioactive region on the planet, a place too dangerous for people, has become a refuge for some of Europe's rarest animals. It turns out that, to much of the natural world, the invisible threat of radiation is less deadly than the one thing we removed from the zone. Us. But there is one kind of human the zone never fully lost. When the buses came in 1986, almost everyone left, but not everyone stayed away. In the years that followed, something strange and deeply human happened. People began to sneak back in. Quietly, without permission, older residents returned to the villages where they had been born, to their old wooden houses, their gardens, their land. They have a name, the Samosli, the self-settlers. At first, there were around 1,000 of them. Almost all were elderly. Many were women. They had been offered safety somewhere else, clean apartments, far from the radiation, and they chose the poisoned land instead. Because it was home. Because they would rather die where they belonged than live as strangers somewhere safe. Over the decades, their numbers have dwindled to just a few dozen. Soon there may be none left at all. And when the last of them is gone, the zone will belong entirely to the wolves, the horses, and the silence. That is the strange lesson of Chernobyl. We think of it as a story about the worst thing we ever built. But stand in Pripyat today, in the empty school, beneath the Ferris wheel that never turned, and it becomes something else. A glimpse of what the earth looks like when we are gone. Nature does not mourn us. It simply moves back in and carries on. The city is still there, frozen at 1986, waiting for people who will never return. And the invisible thing that emptied it will outlast us all long after the last of us who remembers has forgotten. If this is the kind of story you want to keep exploring, subscribe, leave a like, and tell us in the comments. Would you ever step inside the zone? Until then, some doors are better left closed.